To breaking news now, more on the Jami Lee Ross saga and the National Party and its leader Simon Bridges. True to his form over this week in providing the media as well as you, the public, with information in very much a drip feed format. In the past half hour, Jami Lee Ross has released a second secret recording of a conversation that he had with National leader Simon Bridges. Joining us now is our political editor, Jane Patterson. Good evening, Jane.
Good evening, Alex.
Probably the most obvious and I guess new thing from this is that Jami Lee Ross will not be resigning from Parliament as he said he would do today.
That's right. So back on Tuesday, when he held that media conference, one of the things that he said was that he had quit the National Party, he had resigned from caucus, and it was his plan to quit Parliament altogether, and you have to notify the Speaker to do that today. So we've been waiting for that contact or communication to go to the Speaker. It did arrive. It did not arrive. We had been hearing through the day that it might have been so that he could stay on in Parliament and continue to use parliamentary privilege. Now, News Talk ZB has just done an exclusive interview with Jami Lee Ross where he confirms that. He says that his decision was made because he thinks that the National Party has basically mounted a smear campaign against him. He says he's going to then stay in Parliament and he is going to use his position in the House to expose the flaws of his former party. Now, he has also released exclusively to News Talk ZB another tape, and that is part of the conversation when back in June he was approached and confronted by the leader Simon Bridges about allegations of harassment against 4 women.
Right, OK, so let's deal with those things separately. Perhaps we can go to the harassment allegations because it sounds like this is a case of Jami Lee Ross really fessing up. He's apologised and he's admitted to affairs with 2 women, right?
He has, and he has also said that he had an affair or had a relationship with another MP. Now, he was willing to name the woman. News Talk ZB said that they were not going to be naming the woman, so he has admitted to affairs. He says he apologises to his wife, that he has told her about these other relationships and has apologised to her. But the tape itself, the recording that he released, is a part of a conversation with his leader, Simon Bridges, and he alluded to it back on Tuesday, saying that was part of Mr Bridges' campaign to force him out of Parliament when he started to question his leadership. Jami Lee Ross hit back and said that, in fact, he had a conversation taped with Mr Bridges that he is basically presenting as a threat. Now, the audio that we've just heard is a bit muffled, but basically it's Simon Bridges saying that he has these allegations, Jami Lee Ross saying that in any normal situation of natural justice, he'd be able to see the evidence and have the space to be able to respond properly to the evidence. And then Mr Bridges basically said if he continued to push back against that, if he was, quote, given natural justice, it would not be 4 or 5 women, it would be 15. Yeah,
and the interesting thing here, Jane, I guess just at first glance, is that this is the first time in what Jami Lee Ross has released that really black and white 100% confirms what he said it was going to do. I think people were a little bit underwhelmed by the text messages released yesterday, even by that phone conversation in regard to that alleged $100,000 dodgy donation. Here we have Simon Bridges one day denying that he made those comments, and now we have him, I guess, caught saying that he was threatening Jami Lee Ross with 15 different women, exactly what Jami Lee Ross had said earlier in the week.
There is a difference here, Alex, between actually, I suppose what someone said and then the way it's been characterised. So Simon Bridges had denied that he had been trying to push Jami Lee Ross out of Parliament, but he had not denied having that conversation about confronting him with the allegations. Jami Lee Ross has taken those comments and presented them as a threat against him. So it very much depends how you view and characterise the conversation that Jami Lee Ross has just released. OK,
very important qualification you've made there. Thank you for that. But let's stay on Simon Bridges just for a second here, because what's going to happen now is there won't be a by-election. Jami Lee Ross will try to stay in Parliament as an independent MP, sit the crossbenchers. National do not want him there. Simon Bridges wants to get rid of him. How can he do it in the context of the very fresh waka jumping law?
So that legislation that National fought tooth and nail came into law on the 3rd of October. So that is sitting there on the statute books if National chooses to use it. But it is not as simple as them ticking a box and invoking it. They have quite a long period of time, a period over 21 days, and it needs the backing of 3/4 of the caucus. And basically, they need to prove or mount a case to the Speaker of the House that by staying on in Parliament, Jami Lee Ross would be distorting the proportionality of Parliament. And basically, that would look like Jami Lee Ross voting continually against National, for example, when the people that elected him would have had expected that he would support the National Party. Now, MPs in the past, including Brendan Horan, have avoided falling into that trap of the proportionality to be able to get them hoisted out of Parliament by staying to vote with his party. And that is something that Jami Lee Ross could look to do even as he gets to his feet in the House and uses privilege to, as I said, what he says was expose the flaws of his former party, and in particular the leader, Simon Bridges. So that is not a straightforward process. That would certainly take a matter of weeks in which, of course, Jami Lee Ross can use his position in Parliament to further embarrass the party and Mr Bridges.
Yeah, amazing test case so soon after this law was passed. And as you're saying, National will have to mount a case that his presence there provides an imbalance in the proportionality. It might be hard to do, but I guess as you're saying, that's a wait and see just to see how destabilising his presence will be in terms of what he's going to do in the House. But taking into account all of this, Jane, I appreciate you've just, like all of us, have just received the information. Where does this leave Simon Bridges and his leadership? It's another, in a sense, an unexpected turn for them.
I think there's probably been quite a shift in public sentiment and really a shift against Jami Lee Ross after the allegations of harassment yesterday, and that can really only help Simon Bridges. It means that when Jami Lee Ross comes out with either new information or material to back up previous claims that he's made, people probably aren't quite so willing or keen to accept or hear what he's got to say. In saying that, Simon Bridges does have some relationships to mend within his own caucus after some of the remarks he made. There'll be a bit of disquiet, I'm sure, among MPs, but also the other aspect for the caucus is they are now very worried about what recordings Mr Ross may have with them. Certainly indications that he may have been recording conversations for quite a while. So the caucus is really shell-shocked by the events of this week, but still pretty anxious about maybe what other material Mr Ross has, and as I said, can actually use parliamentary privilege to talk about some of that material that may have legal implications.
Absolutely. Jane Patterson, thank you very much for your information, for your political analysis.